Hi, I'm Mel. I'm an artist and sometimes a builder. Right now we are currently building our library. This week is all about adding those finishing touches, trim details, prep before we can start painting. We decided to kind of change direction around the window. Originally, the trim detailing was going to be 1x2 or 1x3 boards with trim or wainscoting details inside of those boards. Since the window itself had such heavy, thick trim on it, we decided to cap with plywood and then add little picture window details with a skinnier trim. We wanted to add that finer trim without adding too much weight visually, and I think it was successful. A little bit of a pivot, but it worked. Here I'm doing a little trick. You have like a gap, you put a screw in a little bit, and then you use a clamp to squeeze close that gap, and then screw in to secure and take your screw out. Here's that corner trim I talked about adding. It's a small 1/2-inch cove corner trim. So it's a bit concave. I did add it around, I just didn't take a video of it. So it goes to the left and then down. And then we just added baseboard all around, which was very satisfying to no longer see a lot of that raw plywood edge. My biggest tip for baseboard is make it work for you. If your floors are uneven, try to level it out as best as you can. You can hide the gap with your shoe mold, like I'm doing here. When I was writing my dimensions, you're always doing that back dimension. And then I would write like outside corner or inside corner, because you kind of have to cut them differently based on where they sit. So if I had an inside corner, I'd cut that first, and then I'd measure from the back of the trim, and then where the outside corner needed to start, I'd kind of draw myself a little guide to make sure I was going the right way. Always by extra, you're gonna mess up. And then I started filling. So I'd fill with my premium wood filler, and then I'd use a wet rag to scrub off the excess. I probably should have waited a second for it to half dry before doing this, but it's on the ground, you're not really gonna notice. You just need to fill that hole. If you had some excess wood, a nice flat razor works for that. Or the edge of your scraper also works for that. And then we're filling. We're doing it. Favorite and least favorite part of the process. I ended up adding this cutie little shelf next to the daybed as that riser mistake fixer. This will probably become like a little charging station. So we've got a plug on the left, and then I'll run a surge protector all the way to the right and make it look all nice. Zach and I put crown molding up. It was really annoying. I will not teach you how to do crown molding. I will link the video I felt was the most helpful to learn how to do it. We did end up cutting one of the longer pieces incorrectly, so cool. I'm just caulking. I tend to like to wear gloves when caulking. It's pretty sticky and it just kind of annoys me. And I use a wet rag to clean up as well. Ended up using Lowe's version of Bondo for all of the pocket holes on this build. It was the first time that I've ever used Bondo. Comes highly recommended from a few of my friends. I can't say that I loved it. If this was an outdoor project or a project in my studio that I could like leave it and not smell it, I think I'd probably use it again, but since it was kind of off the living room and I have a sensitive nose, I could kind of smell it for days and days. So if you want to use it in your house, think about that. I tried to hide all of my pocket holes on the tops of the shelves, so when you're standing on the ground, you can't really see the fill lines. Oh my God, it stinks. Cutie little snail friend. I opted to hand sand and not use an electrical sander, mostly because I didn't want to deal with all the dust. Our living room's right off of this, and it's just a cased opening, no door. I could have put some tarps or plastic up, but I just didn't want to do it. I am using a Diablo sand net sandpaper. I recommend it. I really love it. It lasts longer, and sometimes when you're dealing with fine dust on normal sandpaper, it just clogs up the sandpaper, and this, it kind of falls through the holes and you can kind of get out that dust and restart. On some of the more shallow holes, you can use just a wet rag to scrub off some of that wood filler. I kind of got sick of sanding, so. Last final wipe down, I did end up going and filling just a real skim coat to my pocket holes after the first initial sand, and then I would just wipe to clean and make it nice and smooth. Here's our cutie little picture frames. So I started at the bottom and secured that, and then I added my right and my left and just kind of secured the bottoms, made sure they were straight, tacked them in. I like using my battery powered brad nailer for this. If you have a pin nailer, that would be great. If you have a brad nailer with an air compressor, that could work too. Just make sure you lower your PSI. Those can get kind of aggressive. To calculate, I measured the total distance from top to bottom and then picked like 6 inches arbitrarily between. So then 6 times 3 is 18. 80 minus 18 divided by 2 gives me 31 each. And then I just visually picked 8 3/4 to be the width. I really like my battery powered Ryobi. A lot of people give a lot of crap to Ryobi brand, but as a woman, they're a little more ergonomic to my wrists and they're not as heavy duty as some of the other things out there. The DeWalt battery powered brad nailer is humongous, and I've never had an issue with the Ryobi one. Well, that's a lie. She's a fickle bitch, but I still like her. I might upgrade when she dies, but I like her.
You gonna record my terrible painting skills? You see this technique? Don't do that.
Zach came in to help paint. He was chomping at the bit to finally get some primer on here. He does not like painting, so thanks, Zach. Appreciate you. I opted to use a miter box, and I mounted it to just a scrap piece of plywood. Sometimes when you're cutting smaller trim on a chop saw, it can gnarl up the edges, just a little too aggressive of a saw. I also, at this point, was getting sick and tired of going back and forth from the studio or the porch to cut trim, and just wanted something that I could adjust in the moment. I had so many tiny pieces to cut. We decided to add trim on the top of the daybed to add a little detail. We debated on doing drawers in here or not. We debated on adding little picture frames like we have been around, and it just became a little too much detail. We wanted something, but we wanted something simple. Since this is a high traffic, I angled my nails in like a diagonal from top to bottom. So when I was going from the top, I was angling it kind of down towards the floor. And then when I was going from the bottom, I'd angle it kind of up and out. I'll try to add a link of what trim detail I used. Lowe's has better trim than Home Depot does, in my opinion. Just a lot more options, not as a generic builder grade. And you can see I added some more of that cove trim to the right side of this bookshelf face. There was just some imperfections and gaps from the drywall because there used to be tile and a fireplace on this wall, so it's been patched a little too many times and added some new drywall and different things. So I use that same technique of filling and then wiping excess off with a wet rag. Just so you don't have to sand. You're not sanding down all of those fine details on the trim. All right, next up is full-on painting and then fun daybed stuff. Thank you for coming along on this journey. If you could do me a favor by subscribing and liking and commenting on my videos, that would be amazing.